It began with the clock, or maybe just me noticing it. Time isn't measured in a marriage the way it is at work or in traffic, but lately I found myself checking the numbers on my phone whenever she wasn't home. 10:42 p.m., 11:07, 12:19. Each minute past midnight felt heavier, as if the air in our house grew thicker without her presence. She said I was overthinking it, that the new project at work had late deadlines, that sometimes the team went out afterward to relax. She said relax like it was a legitimate line item on her schedule. I wanted to believe her. I really did. But small details kept slipping by. Her perfume changed. Not the scent I had given her last Christmas, but something sharper, bolder. The kind of scent meant to be noticed, not remembered. Her phone, once casually tossed on the kitchen counter, was now tucked away in her purse the instant she walked in. She started showering before coming to bed, even though she swore she'd already showered at the gym. Still, each time I mentioned it, she tilted her head with that mixture of disbelief and faint irritation, like I'd accused her of robbing a bank in broad daylight. "You have to trust me," she'd say. And I nodded because I had no proof. Proof is the difference between paranoia and certainty. Then came Friday night. It had been a long week, and I told her I might meet a few friends after work. The truth, I had no plan. I just didn't want to be home alone, watching the clock again. I ended up at Murphy's, a dim corner bar on Hawthorne and 8th. The kind of place where no one cares who you are as long as your tab stays open. I sat at the far end near the jukebox, nursing a whiskey I wasn't even sure I wanted. The music was soft, the hum of conversation just enough to keep the loneliness at bay. About 40 minutes in, I saw her. The door swung open, bringing the cold night air and her. Not just her though, him. Tall dark jacket. A confident stance that tightened my stomach. They were close enough that her shoulder brushed his as they laughed at something only they knew. I didn't think. I just raised my glass in an automatic, almost bitter salute. Then she saw me. Her eyes widened. Her hand froze mid-gesture. And the glass she held tilted just enough to spill the amber liquid across the floor. She didn't glance down. She didn't even look at him. She looked at me. For the first time in months, there was no irritation on her face. No staged innocence. Just shock, raw and unguarded. I didn't smile, didn't wave her over. I lifted my glass a little higher. A quiet toast to the moment the clock struck midnight on all my doubts. That's when it started. The unraveling. Not with shouting, not with accusations, but in the silence between that raised glass and the one she dropped. She didn't move toward me. She didn't need to. Her face had already said more than words ever could. I watched her murmur something to him, her eyes flicking as if mapping exits. Then she placed the glass, now half empty and dripping, on the bar with careful deliberation. He turned to see what had frozen her. His gaze landed on me, curious but not defensive. Taller than me, broader in the shoulders, a man used to life bending his way. He rested a hand on her back, possessive and protective. That gesture made something cold settle in my chest. I stayed seated. I wanted her to make the first move. She did. She walked over slowly, like moving through deep water. "What are you doing here?" she asked, her voice low but tense. "Having a drink," I said, glancing at my half-full glass. "Same as you." Her jaw tightened. "This isn't what it looks like." I raised an eyebrow. "Sure. From here, it looks exactly like what I've been asking about for months." Behind her, the man turned back toward the bar, pretending not to watch but clearly observing. That slight, smug tilt of his head, he knew. She exhaled. "I can explain but not here." I sipped slowly, never breaking eye contact. "You've had plenty of time to explain. You just never wanted to." A beat of silence passed, not searching for words, but confirming there weren't any left. Finally, "I'm going out with him." She flinched. That was answer enough. I didn't follow. Didn't make a scene. I just watched her return to him, leaning in close, whispering something I couldn't hear. They left together. His hand on her back like it belonged there. When the door shut behind them, I let the whiskey burn its way down and ordered another, not because I wanted it, but to give myself a moment to decide what came next. Funny, when you've suspected something long enough, the truth doesn't hit like a punch. It lands quietly, a nod to the part of you that's been screaming all along. By the time I left Murphy's, the plan had already begun to form. Not revenge, at least not yet, but something deliberate, precise. If she thought I had overreacted before, she was about to see what measured really looked like. I didn't go home that night. Instead, I drove aimlessly through the city, the streets blurring into streaks of light and shadow. My phone buzzed twice, once a text, once a call, both from her. I ignored them. Whatever she wanted to say would be rehearsed, a lie polished with care. I didn't want her version. I had the truth now. By morning, I had shifted from disbelief to strategy. First, I pulled our joint financial statements. I had managed the bills for years, so I knew where to look. The hotel charges were there. Different names, same location, scattered over months. Some under hers, some under a card I didn't recognize. A little digging revealed it was his. Over the next week I kept my distance. Polite but distant, like strangers sharing the same apartment. She noticed, asked if I was still angry. I said I wasn't. I was tired. That was true in a way she couldn't understand. While she worked late again, I met with a lawyer. Not for divorce papers, not yet, but to understand my options. I learned about asset division, documenting infidelity, and how timing could be everything. The advice was simple. Gather evidence, move quietly. So I did. I hired a private investigator, the kind who blends in anywhere and walks away with exactly what you need. 3 weeks later, he handed me a folder. Inside, photos of them holding hands outside restaurants, disappearing into hotels, laughing in the park like they had nothing to hide. And then one photo froze me. Her at Murphy's, the same bar, but a different night. She had a pattern. I didn't confront her with the pictures. Not yet. I wanted the moment to belong to her. To walk into a room thinking she was in control, only to realize she wasn't. That moment came on a Thursday. I told her I was working late and returned to Murphy's. Same seat, same whiskey. An hour later, like clockwork, she walked in with him. This time I didn't lift my glass. I placed the folder on the bar where she would see it. Our eyes met, hers dropped to the folder. She froze, the same shock, but now there was recognition. She knew exactly what I had. Her grip on the glass trembled. In that instant I felt no anger, no hurt. I was done. She thought my silence before was overreacting. She was about to learn it was just the beginning. I left before she could approach. No scene. No last words. Just the sound of my boots on the worn wood and the faint clink of her glass as she set it down. That night, I moved the rest of my important documents into a locked office drawer and transferred what I could into accounts solely under my name. The next morning I met with my lawyer again, folder in hand. Things moved fast after that. The investigator's photos, financial records, hotel receipts. They built a case so solid even her lawyer didn't fight. The divorce was filed under fault, every late night unwinding, documented for court. She didn't contest. She couldn't. When the papers were final, she sent one last message. I never meant for it to go this far. I stared at it, thinking of the months spent staring at the clock, waiting for her. Then I deleted it. I later heard through a mutual friend that her fling didn't last. They rarely do when built on ruins. As for me, I kept my quiet routine. Early mornings, work I cared about, evenings with friends who never asked about her. Sometimes, passing Murphy's, I glance at the door, not hoping to see her, just to remember that night. The one where everything finally clicked. When the clock stopped ticking, and I realized the silence I had feared was actually freedom.